a number of Trump administration officials who have been bothered or harassed while they've been out in public enjoying meals or watching movies. And now the right wing is pretty furious about it. But is there really reason to be furious when policies that the Trump administration has been pushing or statements from the Trump administration have essentially lied to the American people? Like, does it make sense to be angry that other people would be angry at those things? That's the question.
Yeah, it depends on the way in which they're angry. There have been a lot of examples of it.
There have. So I'm gonna give you one of the more high profile examples that happened over the weekend. So the Red Hen restaurant in Virginia is located in a part of Virginia that actually disagrees with the rest of the state. It is a part of Virginia that essentially voted overwhelmingly against Trump. And the people living there find Donald Trump and his administration to be deplorable, or maybe deplorable isn't the best word because it brings up Hillary Clinton, but they disagree with his divisive policies. Now, with that said, apparently Sarah Huckabee Sanders ate at the Red Hen restaurant over the weekend, and she was asked by a manager to leave because they did not agree with her being there. They felt that it went against their morality. On Friday night, the White House press secretary, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, was told by the co-owner of the Red Hen restaurant in Lexington, Virginia to leave. The owner did not want Sanders there in part because she works for a, quote, inhumane and unethical administration. All right, now Sarah Huckabee Sanders tweeted about it, and of course that led to a lot of backlash and also a lot of people supporting Sanders, saying that, hey, the left wing has gone too far. But Stephanie Wilkinson, who is the co-owner of the restaurant, says the following: I'm not a huge fan of confrontation. I have a business and I want the business to thrive. This feels like the moment in our democracy when people have to make uncomfortable actions and decisions to uphold their morals. I explained that the restaurant has certain standards that I feel it has to uphold, such as honesty and compassion and cooperation. I said, I'd like to ask you to leave. So Sarah Huckabee Sanders agreed and politely left. And apparently she had offered to pay for the meal, but Stephanie Wilkinson says, they offered to pay, I said, no, it's on the house. So Trump has chimed in on this debate and of course did so in typical Trump fashion. He said the Red Hen restaurant should focus more on cleaning its filthy canopies, doors and windows, badly needs a paint job, rather than refusing to serve a fine person like Sarah Huckabee Sanders. I always had a rule: if a restaurant is dirty on the outside, it is dirty on the inside.
What if you're dirty on the inside? Trump must be dirty on the outside.
Yeah, pretty much.
This is so weird. That last tweet is just like the weirdest part about it. That the president of the United States is making a statement like that and talking about like the Red Hen restaurant in Virginia.
Right.
And how it's dirty on the outside. And it's such a weird, like, old adage from an uncle about like, here's how I choose a restaurant.
Yeah, you know what Trump consistently does, but it just flies under the radar? He punishes people for political speech, which is against the First Amendment to the Constitution.
But
it's true. I mean, he blocks people on Twitter who criticize him. He essentially blocking them from, seeing the president's tweets. He punishes people when they protest. I mean, he speaks out against them. The NFL players, it just happens to be one example. And then he goes after a restaurant that practiced its constitutionally protected free speech rights.
Right, so how constitutionally protected is that? That's up for debate. It's different from the kind of rights that you have when it comes to like religious freedom and sexual orientation discrimination or whatever. But to me, it's just this situation. The way that the co-owner of that restaurant handled it is really the most telling to me. She was like, she seemed to be in a weird position because it's not like she said, get out of my restaurant. She's not saying, you need to leave, I disagree with all of you. It was, she went and had a vote among the people that worked at the restaurant. They felt like they needed to do something. And really where a lot of people are at that I think we can get to the heart of is like, we don't know what to do necessarily. Because it used to be you were confident enough in the security of the freedom of the press and freedom of expression where you didn't feel like you had to go to your battle stations all the time.
Yep.
It used to be like, I'm sure if you're at the Red Hen, which seemingly is on the outskirts of DC, it is a cool, cute place, kind of place I'd want to go. If I want a vacation, I'd go to the Red Hen because they have like really good plating skills. But when all that, it's just strange that like that owner felt they needed to do something. Otherwise, she probably would have been like, all right, it's Sarah Huckabee Sanders. My group of people that work here, we're largely progressive, and then she's largely conservative, and she does all that stuff, but we'll let her have her meal. But in this situation, I think a lot of people are just disoriented at not knowing how much the president truly has chipped away at the fundamental strength of things like freedom of the press and freedom of expression, the security of our democracy, and that's scary.
Yeah, I think that what happened here was not an instance of progressives disagreeing with conservatives, because we've had a long history of two dominant political parties who disagree with one another. And these types of incidents didn't happen with this frequency, right?
Yeah.
Because especially over the last few weeks, we see more and more cases of, Kirstjen Nielsen getting heckled or harassed, I should say, while she's at a Mexican restaurant in DC. Same thing happened with Stephen Miller while he was also at an upscale Mexican restaurant in DC. I know. So,
carve out a genre of food you will not enjoy while you're being super anti-Mexican.
I know. So here's the thing. Things are different under the Trump administration, right? I want to be as clear as I can possibly be in that I do not support physical violence at all, and I never will. However, I think that in this day and age, protesting the divisiveness of this administration is an obligation by the left wing, because the left wing has, supported and upheld civility for a very long time, while the other side has never done so. Just think back to the political conventions, the Democratic convention, the Republican National Convention, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, the type of anti-Hillary apparel that was sold outside of the Republican National Convention was the furthest thing from civil. Now, I wasn't a Hillary Clinton supporter in the primaries, as you guys all know, but they called her every name you could possibly imagine. But you didn't see similar behavior on the left. And the left keeps talking about how we need to compose ourselves, how we need to engage in civil debate, how we need to debate ideas. No, but it hasn't worked. As we've sat back and allowed them to take charge and play dirty, all of these different rights have deteriorated. And so that's my issue. I have no problem with what happened to Sarah Huckabee Sanders. What I do have a problem with is that the Trump administration is off in a corner crying and moaning about it while they celebrate private businesses being able to turn away gay couples looking for a wedding cake. So
that's a specific difference. There's a lot of people who are saying like, well, if you think that we shouldn't be able to turn someone, there's a whole like equivalency between like the gay wedding cake thing and throwing Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Like if you're gonna force us to give someone who's gay a cake, you gotta force that person to let Sarah Huckabee Sanders eat there. That is the most ridiculous argument. Because one thing is the type of person you are. So that is someone's like, I refuse to make your cake because of you're gay.
Yeah.
Right? That is a type of person you are. No. The Red Hen turned Sarah Huckabee Sanders away because of the specific individual she is.
Right, because of her characteristics.
Individual actions that person has taken against giant swaths of kinds of people.
Yeah.
So that is a specific action. That is, in the morning on the damage report, Brooke Thomas pointed out like that. This is a no shoes, no shirt, no service. Like you have chosen personally to do things that are bad. You personally have done this,
right?
Not because you're just fall into a category of people that crawl into my bubble and refuse to interact with. There's a lot of difficult specifics that people need to get into that might flesh it out more, but just like that is. The gay cake thing is going after someone because of the general type of person that they are.
Right.
The Red Hen is like, Sarah, we don't like you personally because of the things you've chosen to do, and you're insulated, you're protected, you haven't suffered consequences.
Right.
And by the way, your meal is free.
Yeah. No, and look, now there are protesters outside of Kirstjen Nielsen's home. As far as I've read, no one has physically harmed her. No one has put a finger on her. Going to her home makes me slightly uncomfortable.
Me too.
But at the same time, I also, by the way, one other thing that makes me 100% uncomfortable, do not under any circumstance target family members or especially children, okay? Don't talk to the children, don't harass the children, don't do any of that. That's where I definitely draw a line. But you also have to remember that protests are not meant to be convenient. Convenient protests get you nowhere. And so don't let people intimidate you or stop you from voicing your opposition to these administration officials. Let me be clear, the administration officials, the very people who are either complicit or pushing for policies that continue to rip this country apart.
2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below. Then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.